Jonathan Hayes with Do All Outdoors, and we're going to go over the assembly of our new Raven Auto Trap. Basically what we have is the top unit, the base, the axle and the wheels, the handle assembly, our safety ring assembly, our stacker poles, and our mainspring and our hardware. It's a pretty simple process and should go together pretty quick. The first thing you want to do putting together the Raven is you want to mount the axle to the base. And that's done with just 2 screws that go in just like this. All the nuts have our nylock washers built in, so everything's going to be good and tight. Take your other screw, thread it through, turn it over to get a better grip, and you just want to tighten these up. Okay, now our axle is on our base. We're going to set this down and we're going to put the wheels on. It's going to be on each side, it's going to be a washer, a wheel, a washer, and a locking pin. You just want to make sure that that's clamped down nice and tight. You want to come around and do the same for the other wheel. Washer, wheel, washer, clamp. Okay, so that's your wheels and your base, so you can be mobile with it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the pull handle on, and it's 2 pieces. This is the forward section of your handle, and it just mounts onto the bottom, not the top, but the bottom of your base. There's a couple sets of holes here. You want to use this second set of holes on the left to mount your handle. Get that started and work on the second one. Turn it over on its side, get a better angle here. Now we just want to secure the handle to the bottom of the base. Now the handle's made to have 2 different orientations. You can pull it directly from the back, or you can turn it 90 degrees and pull it from the side. We're going to mount it like this for the video. And a washer and another nylock nut, and then one more. Okay. All right, now we've got the handle and the wheels fully assembled. Now we're ready to mount the top unit to the base, and that's done with 4 screws and 4 washers. You just want to pick this up gently. One thing I want to point out, that there's a half moon cut out on the base. There's 2 holes on each side, and it's important that you get the half moon to the back of the base. That's going to be your elevation change. So we've got 2 screws in to start it. I'm going to put 2 more in to finish it off, and you can adjust these at any time once you start throwing birds, and if you want to go higher or lower, you can always make that adjustment at any time. Don't tighten them up all the way until you get them all in. When you're mounting this, it's probably good that you get the 2 back screws in first, tighten them down a little bit, that way it'll hold everything into place for you. All right, so now we've got the top unit in place. Now would be a good time to adjust it to where you think you might, want your launch angle at, but you can always adjust that later. The bulk of the assembly is now done. We've got the wheels and the axle and the top unit mounted to the base and the handle. So now we're gonna, the next step is to mount the stacker poles. Stacker poles will hold 50 clays, and you just want to simply slide these on like so. Pretty simple. You want to take your horseshoe and mount it to the top. One important thing to point out, you want to make sure that your opening is facing towards the back. This helps keep everything in place, and it helps load your clays a lot easier. No need to tighten these down really tight. Just hand tighten them, and then you can hit them with an Allen wrench, maybe a quarter of a turn or so. All right, so we've got our stacker poles installed, we've got our horseshoe in. Gonna finish this off with maybe a quarter turn. And these will spin freely, so no worry there. All right. Next thing we want to do is install our safety ring. This is very important. This is a visual barrier, kind of an indicator of the arm's path. It's a safety measure that we put in place, so you'll know exactly where that arm is swinging when the machine is on. These are your safety ring holders, and they mount to the side of the trap. Pretty straightforward. Two screws for each bracket. And I'm going to come around and mount the other safety ring bracket on. This side mounts just like the other side, pretty straightforward. 2 Allen screws to the frame of the machine. 2 more safety ring holders I'd install to the back of the machine on the frame. And these just simply screw in to the back of the machine. Both sides. All right, so now we're ready to install our safety ring. So now that we've got our final safety ring mount installed, we're going to install the safety ring. And it's a pretty straightforward process as well. All you want to do is mount it to the back. Like so. And come around to the front of the trap. Run it through the eyelet. You want to run it through the second eyelet. And then finally to the back of the machine. All right, the next step is to install the mainspring of the trap. But before we do that, we want to take one important step and install the safety pin. This is going to prevent the arm from firing while we're installing the mainspring. All right, so to install the mainspring, you want to turn your arm around all the way to the 12 o'clock position. You want to grab your eyelet here, take your mainspring, and just hook it through the hole of the eyelet. And then the next step is you want to take the bolt that's inside the mainspring and slide it out the hole that's in the back of the trap. While we're back here, you want to make sure that we're in the off position on our toggle switch. We've got a nylon collar that we want to slide through the hole. And then you want to take your mainspring bolt knob and start threading it onto the bolt. So now that we've got the front end of the mainspring installed, we want to make sure that our safety pin is in and the back of the machine on the toggle switch is in the off position. We've got a nylock collar that we're going to slide onto the mainspring bolt just before we install the knob. And once it's on, now you start applying pressure to the spring. Once there's a sufficient amount of pressure on the spring, the trap is considered live, so use extreme caution at this point. And at this point, once we start firing clays, you can adjust the yardages of your birds from 55 to 80 yards, and that's going to be done with the knob with the mainspring bolt in the back. So now that we've got the Raven 99% assembled, before we install the foot pedal and hook it up to the battery and start throwing birds, I want to go over a couple of features of the Raven. One, we talked about the safety ring. We want to make sure that it's installed. This is a visual barrier of the arm path, so you'll know exactly how far to stand away from the trap. You don't want to get inside of this barrier anytime that the machine is live. We've got a safety pin. Anytime the machine is not in use, please make sure the safety pin's installed. That way the arm can't fire completely and cycle all the way around. Angles of adjustment. You've got a 5 to 35 degree angle of adjustment with just loosening these screws here at the base, moving the machine up and down depending on what launch angle you want. In the back of the machine, there's a toggle switch. It's got 3 different settings: a release, off, and on. Anytime the machine's not in use, of course, you want to have the safety pin in, toggle switch on, off, and it unhooked completely from the battery. Once it's ready to fire, you've installed your foot pedal and hooked it up to the battery, put the machine in the on position, the arm will cycle around, and at that point you are live. If you need to release the trap or decock the trap, there's a release feature on the toggle switch. Now what this does is, if your machine is cocked and loaded, you hit the release button, it'll fire that arm and fire the bird, and the arm will swing all the way around and stop at the 8 o'clock position. And at this point, we're ready to install the foot pedal and start shooting. So now that the Raven is fully assembled, talked about some safety features, a couple of things we need to do before we start shooting. One, you want to plug in the foot pedal. This is a 25-foot cord on this foot pedal, so what that does, it gets you away from your trap, provides a one-man operation in case you want to go shooting by yourself. Also, you can plug in an extension cord, 25 foot, 50 feet, to get you pretty far away from the trap to present many different shot angles. All right, so we got the foot pedal installed. The very last step that we need to take is to install your electrical clips to a 12-volt deep cycle marine battery. Make sure it's fully charged. You can check your battery periodically as well. And once you're connected to your battery, you want to pull your safety pin. You want to cut the machine to on. After you load your clays, the arm's going to cycle around and you're live and you're ready to fire. If you want to learn more about the Raven or check out some more videos on it, go to www.doalloutdoors.com.